I wish that I was here in Apalachicola as we do the show. Unfortunately, I am not. Still back in my studio cave. Hi, everybody. This is Dave from Florida Beer Podcast and Florida Beer Blog and Florida Beer Media and Florida Beer underwear and Florida Beer hats and Florida Beer whatever else I'm going to create out of this thing. So, hi, how you doing? This is going to be a fun show. I'm excited for this one because you got some really great stories coming today. I'm very excited for them. Steve, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in there, Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Very excited for today's guests. Kind of one of those breweries that are up in the panhandle that I never thought I would actually be able to try. And not only is that wrong, but is as far removed as humanly possible. We have with us today Oyster City Brewing. Actually, I can right there. Woo, Oyster City. And with us today, we are very happy to be graced by the presence of Kevin Wirfs, the Director of Sales, and Clayton Mathis, the Brewmaster, who can tell us all about the awesome things that we are about to try. Gentlemen, thank you for coming to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man. We're happy to be a part of it.
Absolutely. So I figure let's just start off with the beer. I wanted to kind of start right off at the top at your flagship, which is interesting because it is a brown ale, which is sort of a pariah in craft beer these days, but you are kind of having fun with it. We are starting with Hooter Brown, an 8.5% brown ale. Yeah. So cheers, gentlemen. Kampai, Slancha, and tell us all about this. Tell us all about this bad boy, if you could.
Well, this was the first beer from Oyster City that we built our brand around, which is kind of odd, like you say. You don't see a lot of brown ales anymore, and especially with us being on the coast, you wouldn't think that a brown ale, 8.5% brown ale, would do so well along the coast, but it has. So this is one we started off using 100% Tupelo honey in it. We still do use local honey. It's a blend of gallberry, wildflower, and Tupelo honeys now due to the availability of those honeys. We use some chocolate malt, some roasted malt, and it gives it that kind of chocolate forward flavor and then finishes nice and sweet with just a little bitterness. And
it is interesting because you get this nice earthy. It's not like an overly sweet honey, especially being October. I've got the little, candy corns and the pumpkins that are all made with honey.
Yes.
So I'm used to that flavor, but it's not, it's a darker honey. It's, I want someone to say roasted honey, but yeah, it's got those big flavors.
Much smoother than I was expecting.
But much smoother and a lot. I'm sorry, go ahead.
One of the comments we get when we're out tasting this with people is, this is the fourth in a line of progression when we're tasting. And people say, they go, wow, this is really great. They were expecting it to be heavy. It's not overly heavy. And then we go, well, it's also 8.5%. You're going to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Like, no, hey, we're Apalachicola. We like to drink up here. We're damn good at it.
I mean, that's a dark beer.
It's almost, it really is. It's almost amazing that you let it stay at 8%, and you even have an imperial version of this, right?
We have another version that's here at the brewery. Yeah,
we have a barrel-aged version that we have aged in a bourbon barrel for, depending upon the freshness of the barrel. We usually do it in between 3 and 6 months. It's called Midnight at the Oasis, which is kind of a tribute to the bar that was here where the brewery was for 60 plus years, called the Oasis. And it's even darker, even stronger, with that great whiskey flavor. And as soon as we put it on tap, it's gone every time.
Yeah, people love it. It's great. It's a fantastic beer. Again, it touches upon the history of what that place is. It was a bank at one time, became a bar at another. Still has that beautiful mosaic tile floor in it. So when you walk in, you're transported back. And you're looking right now. There's a combination of tourists and locals down there having a good time. I think that's one of the appeals to Oyster City is people enjoy it because you have people from all over the country who stay out of St. George Island. They're sitting right alongside the locals having a good time together. Got a little homemade chest out there.
Oh, really? That's kind of
But
amazing.
if you look, there's a gentleman sitting in a white tank top, and it's
Okay.
it's not like we have a lack of oyster shells that you can use for pieces. So just grab a bunch of pieces, play checkers or chess, whatever you want to play.
That's kind of amazing. Who is Jamie Ray? It looks like they are going to be joining us.
Awesome.
Jamie Ray is the creator of Hooter Brown.
Well, it looks like this is the best time to bring him on. Jamie, hi, how are you?
There he is.
Hi.
Thanks, Jamie.
You're just about
How's
to talk
everyone
because
doing?
we were chatting about a particular creation of yours.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you.
And we were talking
I'll give
about
Jamie an introduction. Jamie's been in the beer industry
Yeah,
for
go for it.
about 30 years. And he was brought on in the beginning of Oyster City as a consultant to show how to run all this equipment and create some recipes. Hooter Brown was his original recipe, and he's been back full-time employment with us since last February, overseeing our
Nice.
operations down in Lakeland at Brew Hub. So, Jamie, why don't you talk about Hooter Brown some?
Absolutely. You
All
are the
right.
madman behind releasing an 8.5% brown ale as a year-round release.
Well, that was definitely a team effort. That the whole crew really pushed it to that level. I helped bring the base to it, and the nice balance with the brown malts and all of that. And then as a team, we put it together, and it became the wonderful 8% beer it is now.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. It's funny because, and I'm sure that, being in Lakeland, being at Brew Hub on a regular basis, you have seen some of the beers that come and go. And kind of what we mentioned at the top of the show is that brown ales don't really tend to be one of those. It seems to be a beer that has lost its favor in lieu of triple IPAs and pastry stouts and so on. But there's a very, very select few breweries in the state that are releasing it on a year-round basis. I can only really think of you and Bold City that release them and have them as their flagships. Is it just sort of tradition that you stick with it, or is it really such a hot seller that you cannot keep it on the shelves?
Well, it really is. It really is our core beer. It's a great introductory beer for a lot of new consumers, and at the same time, it has a lot of diehard fans. So we can't imagine Oyster City without the Hooter Brown.
And Kevin, I know when we spoke last, the Hooter part of it has a non-chicken wing restaurant based name. So if you could
Now,
let us
we're coming to
know.
you live from the deck of the Owl Cafe, which is next door to the Owl Tap Room. Put two and two together. That's kind of what it is.
Right.
It's an homage more to the history of who the original owners were, Rex and Cassie and Susan. They're the ones who kind of put the whole thing together and get drunk as Hooter Brown. Well, Hooter Brown are the most, but it's Hooter Brown up here.
Yeah, there was an original toss around the idea of the name of Hooter Brown. And it's the drunk as Hooter Brown. Apparently, he was a guy in the Civil War who didn't want to fight for either side, so he just got drunk the whole time. And there was already a beer named Hooter Brown made by a brewery out of Jekyll Island Brewing in Georgia. So they just looked right across the street to the restaurant they had created many years before and chose Hooter Brown in honor of the Owl Cafe. So it's pretty awesome.
That's amazing. Well, I guess it kind of brings us to Apalachicola, because you take a look at the footage, you take a look at this beautiful downtown shot of the brewery, and it seems like it's a great little place to be. Kind of tell us a little bit about it.
It is all you.
Well, I've been working with the brewery for 5.5 years now. I missed about the first year with them, and I've seen the brewery grow so much and seen the town grow so much around the brewery. and it's been called like a third place now, which is, you have work, you have home, and then you have that other place. You have that place that gives you the sense of community, the sense of belonging, kind of like, Cheers. Everybody knows your name. So while we are now a tourist town, we're no longer a commercial fishing town. It's a tourist town for sure. We get a great group of tourists here constantly, year round. They return year after year. But we have that great sense of everybody belonging. We have our great community with locals. And when those tourists come back, they're just part of the family. And this area on the corner has become a gathering place for little musical get-togethers. We do some festivals throughout the year, charity events. Of course, that stuff has kind of been tamed this year. But it's just that sense of community that we've tried to create. And it just grows constantly. And we're so proud of it.
There's normally a shitload more of golf carts out here too. They'll come pull their golf carts up, relax. Oh yeah. This is
definitely a golf cart town for sure.
We are
That's
just
funny.
behind us. If you go one block, you're out in the Apalachicola River, where you have shrimp boats are parked, and then just to our left is the bridge that takes you over towards St. George Island. The St. George Island is really where we get a lot of our tourism from.
Okay. So people generally come by you on the way to or from the island?
We've become a destination, to be honest. I guess every mall and every shopping area has their anchor, and the community has been so great with us and working with us, and we give back to the community. We're not just here as a business. We're a part of the community. So we've kind of become a nice little anchor. There's some great restaurants all around here. The great thing about this town, it is 99% independent. I think there's a Subway somewhere. I haven't discovered it yet, but we're a lot of little dress shops and curio shops, and there's a great little chocolate place just over the way with great coffee. We've got an amazing restaurant and hotel that's been around here since the 1800s. So no, there's a lot of stuff that goes on if you get a chance.
And every single place here supports the community.
Yeah,
I would think so. Absolutely.
And we won't say who that is.
So,
I won't either.
oh my gosh, so much to chat about. So you've got all these places that support you. I'm sorry?
No, I said I would say some, but I won't. I'll be nice.
Okay. But I will. The next thing that I kind of want to talk about, because I have opened up the next can, and I definitely want to get Clayton and Jamie your opinion of Mill Pond Dirty.
Hey, let me get the cooler out.
Exactly. But before, actually, he left, so I kind of wanted to hear him.
Cooler.
Uh-oh.
Little PBW bucket there.
Gotcha. Nice. Well, as he's cracking this up, kind of, I know the name has a very interesting connotation, but Clayton, one of the things that I definitely wanted to chat about is, and this is amazing how Florida breweries have really started to do this, is you take a look at the iconography of the cans. I'm going to get some more. This is a very clean design. This is very crisp. It is very simple, and it's actually quite remarkable and one of my favorites. Where did that come from? Is that just out of necessity or lack of imagination, or how did that really sort of become a thing?
Well, we got to looking on the shelf, and there's so much great beer. So much great beer on our shelves anywhere you go, especially in Florida. I mean, with the great beer that's all over Florida. You have to separate yourself. You've got to make yourself shine. You've got to be able to be seen. And we have it just got moved down to a different location, Scipio Creek. We had a buoy wall. It was a wall down here at the tin shed. It's just a bunch of old buoys. Well, we took some pictures of it with our marketing team. They got to cracking down, and these colors off of everything are related to buoy colors, which were designated crab pots for different families back in the day. So it would distinguish it. So you had your two-tone color with your stripes at the top. And that was kind of the way that you told, Kevin's crab pots from my crab pots, from your crab pots, from Jamie's. And you didn't mess with any other family's stuff. So it's called color blocking, and it's kind of basic. And once I walked in and saw our cans, I was so thrilled. And they really just pop. And, man, I mean, I think they're beautiful, and the history behind them relates to Apalachicola, which is everything we want to do, is bring everything back to Apalachicola into the community.
It's interesting in there. You notice it's matted in color.
Yeah.
And as in the marketing part, the consumer part, when you're scanning that shelf, your eyes kind of glaze over because everything's shiny. And Clayton's right. There's some great beer out there with some very imaginative labels, but at some points they get so creative, you're picking the can up and go, oh, what the hell am I drinking? You're trying to decipher what the can says. So having these matted cans, your eyes automatically stop moving and go, okay, what am I looking at? So the mat has really been a big part of our thing, and we're actually going to a different packaging style on it too. We're going to go to a cardboard pack soon. As a matter of fact, I think we got some already going.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely see. Because I know that you've got the plastic 6-pack rings, but I definitely have noticed a lot of people that have gone to the box, and it's much easier for them, and it gives them more real estate to print and have packaging and advertising materials. Yeah. Jamie, is that something that BrewHub is pretty easy about being able to shift to? Is that something that you had a long conversation with them to get that started?
The logistics out of there work really well for all of our areas, so that's been a really good thing. Lakeland's so central to so many great markets, and that's worked out really well. And they just have the infrastructure to give us the reach that we need.
Interesting. That's fantastic. But it's interesting because you are there in Lakeland. So whenever Oyster City Brewing is in the tanks and in the system, you're the one who's putting it there.
Right. I'm always there to keep an eye on what's going on every day, and it really is a couple. I guess this week we've had packaging 3 days this week, and brewing, and some more packaging later on this week. So I think it's important that someone's there to check it all along the way, and keep our interests at heart.
Right, and obviously we have the brewery across the street, so you can see we're only about 1,600 total square feet in that thing. So in order for us to can, we need to have a little bit bigger of an area to work in. So having the brew hub there is important, but not wanting to lose the integrity of our beer. We tell people, listen, yes, in all transparency, the cans are not produced in Lakeland. They are in Appalachia, are produced in Lakeland. But we have our master brewer down there working with it. So it's not like we're just sliding a recipe across the table and here, make our beer, and we'll collect. We got our boots on the ground inside that brewery 5 days a week, 6 days usually. Having his hand in it, making sure things are right. They're not right, they're corrected. So it's a big statement. There's a lot of great beers that are brewed there. I'm not cutting anyone down. I tasted a bunch of them the other day. We're just lucky enough to have Jamie to be there, so that we can put our stamp on it. We can put our approval, and people know that it's still our beer.
Well, in a place like BrewHub, you could always be falling into the trap of, is my beer on autopilot and we have no hand in it at all, or are we the assurance testing it throughout the entire process?
Sure.
And that's why it was important of us to have Jamie down there now after working with BrewHub for so long. They've done such a fantastic job.
Right.
It's still important to us to keep the quality of the beer the same that got us to where we were. We waited.
How big of a system do you guys have in Apalachicola?
Yeah. Here's a picture of the. See, can you see that?
Yeah, the cardboard.
Hold on.
There's our new.
No.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
There we go.
It's actually pretty good. It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, and the cans are always branded. Every time I go into the store, I walk by the cooler and turn the cans around and face them. And I won't have to do that anymore.
Nice.
And one of the things about it was when the first set came out, it had just the label, which is great. But we wanted to keep the can, because the can is kind of our brand, as much as the label itself. So I'm gonna say that we imbibed, as the dude would say. We imbibed, and we kind of created one with the cans on it, and we submitted it. And they went, "Wow, let's do both." So it does allow the retailer to have the best of both worlds. If they want the big OCBC symbol, it's there. If they want the cans, it's there. So it really gives that A and B side.
Just cut Kevin off because he'll talk for the whole hour.
We got whiskey downstairs too, so that's all that matters. We have a full liquor bar
One for
downstairs.
the IPA. We packaged this one this week.
Oh, nice. That is very snazzy. I like that.
Beautiful.
Oh,
He's
he's
got
nice.
one right there. There we go.
I like that. And we'll be talking about that.
Are you going to be seeing these popping up in Total Wines, in our end of the town soon? Or
Yeah, it's a good point because I know. Yeah, let's talk about distribution because you go up and we are down. So
We're working on it.
We are working on it. As you know, it is a game of, what can you do for us and how can we best support each other. And we want to make sure that when we get to you, that we have the right supply and that we've chosen the right partner and that we have the staff to do it. We've done so great in our home markets, moved into Alabama for people who've been wanting our beer. It's kind of hard to tell people no when they want your beer. So we're happy to hear you want it. And we hope to have it to you soon. And you can go to oystercity.beer, find our beer. There's an interactive map that Kevin created that will show you everywhere that's got our beer.
or Steve just needs to drag me to Lakeland to go to Brew Hub because I know he's always wanted to
Why
go.
not? Take the extra 3.5 hour drive and come all the way.
Or come on up to Apalachicola.
Okay.
Or we can go to
That
Gainesville
works.
and stay at my mom's house and hit the panhandle.
I know. We will do this. I promise you, we will do this. So let's talk about the blonde because I'm enjoying the blonde, and it's got kind of an interesting story behind that name because it's a little embarrassing. But let's go for the Mill Pond blonde. Kevin, if you could take that away.
My Mill Pond, number one, is an area in Appalachia that commercial shrimp boats and other boats come and park their stuff at. So everything we have, all of our cans have something to do with around here. So that's kind of where it started. So we had a blonde ale, and we put little crystal malts in it. And I like to say it makes the beer a little evil. And I mean, let's be honest. If Barbie had a twin sister that lived in Franklin County, she'd be some Mill Pond dirty blonde. So it's not like it's going to be pristine. But I think the one thing it does over a lot of other blonde ales is it doesn't have that brightness. It's got some depth. It's got some body. It's got some weight to it. And it's only 5.5. You know, we're not trying to kill you on this one.
That's what the Hooter Brown is for.
Yes.
All right. So, Steve, I know you're a big fan of Lake City's Hall Patter Brewing, and just figured I should let everybody know that their brewer Johnny Frazier just posted.
Love those guys. Love Johnny.
Well, Johnny just posted one of the best for Oyster City, one of the best breweries in the state. If you want my professional opinion, Clayton is one of the most down-to-earth, nice guys I know. Just a super operation that makes consistent quality beer. And if you don't want to take his word for it, take my word for it because it is some fantastic beers.
I'm going to have to move this camera back to fit his head in now.
I can say, thank you, Johnny.
Appreciate you.
And I can say
deal with this shit all day tomorrow now.
I could say the same thing about Johnny, man. Those guys are making fantastic beers. And I've got to hang out with them at a lot of the beer festivals in previous years, not this year. And they just make fantastic beer. And I'm thank you, Johnny. That means a lot.
Well, I will say
that.
Hall Patter is very big on collaborations. When are we going to see a Hall Patter Oyster City collab?
I think that
That'd be awesome.
be in the future for sure.
Nice. The other thing that I want to talk about, because I've had some beers. When Kevin dropped off the beers for today's show, he got a 6-pack of a Helles lager straight from Jamie, straight from the tanks, only a couple of weeks old. Helles is one of my favorite styles, and that has shot near the top of the best Helles lagers that I've ever had. You know, I put it up on floridabeerblog.com. But I'm not going to talk about the beer because the beer itself is fantastic. And Jamie, and you please let us know about the beer itself. But I want to know about the name, because the name is an even better story than the beer itself.
He's local.
So, Clayton, go for it.
I'll try to keep it short. But I will start by saying some of the originators of the brewery, still some of the owners of the brewery, Rex, his wife Shelly, was a huge instrument in giving me a ton of books and educational materials to learn the craft. She's out there drinking right now.
Oh, let me.
She is the one who originally created that Helles recipe. It's been tweaked just a little bit, but we brewed by committee so much for the first several years there. I can't talk about Helles without giving her some credit as well. But
nice.
Here we have a forest called Tate's Hell State Forest. It was about a man named Tate. He went into the forest. He got lost for day after day after day. And when he got out, he said, "My name's Tate, and I've been through hell." And he died. So they named that forest after him. And I think it's the greatest beer name that we have, period. I mean, it is. It just, and you have a Helles lager, and it just blended so great with it. And we would have liked that he would have enjoyed himself a lot better if he would have had a growler or a can of Tate's.
And the thing about it is, to give you an idea of the size of that park, it is 317 square miles or 230,000 acres.
I say it is a state forest. I'm looking it up right now.
That's huge.
And it is thicket. Man, there's mosquitoes the size of hummingbirds.
Yeah.
Palmetto
bugs ready to go in there.
Down here, but it's a comic book store.
Eat them bastards.
That's the thing. I was thinking about Tate's Comics. You have to realize about Steve, he is the head of his son's Boy Scout troop, and I know his brain. He is getting a trip to Tate's Hell State Forest in his mind right now for his troop.
I couldn't hear you.
1,000 acres.
Well, no, Dave, when the girls across the street are actually watching the podcast or the blogcast, and Shelly's one who's watching it. Now wave. It's happy hour.
That's amazing.
But it's great. It's a great beer. I'm very thrilled to hear that it's one of your favorite Helleses. It is one of mine as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. I will say, especially for the Panhandle breweries, especially, and I know that you're nowhere near Jacksonville, but I've noticed that with Jacksonville and close to Jacksonville, and Hall Powder is a great example of this, the cream ale is king because it's so close to what, let's be honest, your traditional local is used to drinking and has been drinking since they were in middle school. Let's be perfectly honest. Have you ever released something like that? And do you use Tate's Helles Lager as that gateway beer for the person who comes in wanting a macro, not realizing the place that they just stepped into?
Yeah. We have festivals and large events that happen down here sometimes. And you have your people who walk in here and say, "I want a Budweiser," or "I want a Bud Light," or "I want a Miller." And you say, "We don't have," you can hand them a glass of water, which sometimes is met with very, very upset folks. But you can also explain to them that you don't make that here and that we do have an introductory craft beer. And that is the Helles. It is a more approachable craft beer. Yeah, it's light, sessionable, and you can crush them all day. but it's still got that craftiness to it. You know, I think Jamie would probably agree with that too. It's introductory.
Yeah, definitely that or the Dirty Blonde. Either one are great introductory beers. The Helles is a little bit drier of a finish, and the Blonde a little bit on the sweeter side. But both of them are great introductory beers.
Nice. And let's talk about.
I'd be crushing the Hooter Brown every day of the week. That's easy.
I grew up in Chicago, so I grew up on old style.
Yeah, but Steve,
Hooter Brown's still roughly 40% of our brewing.
That's amazing, and
it's easy to drink.
That's amazing. You got to realize Steve's an old Navy boy, so he knows how to drink a lot.
I'm an Army Irish rugby player. You kidding? It sells liquor for a living. It's like the Holy Trinity, for Christ's sake.
All right, so when I come up there, I'll bring my brother with me. He's Army too.
Uh-oh.
All right, there we go.
That's funny. I didn't realize that. So I'm going to move on, and we're going to talk about sweetness here in a little bit. But Steve, do you fish at all?
I do fish.
You do fish. Do you do any oyster fishing, or would you do it if you could?
Probably not.
Okay, because I want to talk about your tap handles. And Kevin had a great story about this. So I'm going to put you on full screen so that we can take a look at the tap handle. Hopefully we can get one of these tap handles pretty soon, because it is both the most unpretty and useful tap handle that you will ever see in your life.
So what this is it's very unique as a tap handle. What this is, it's called a culling iron. So, and it, as far as the stories that I've heard and all the, BS that I've heard, could be BS, not saying that it is, but all the stories that I've heard, this originated here in Apalachicola, and it originated with the gentleman who makes these currently for us. His name's Captain Richard Scarabin. He's a third generation Apalachicolan, I do believe. What this is these things were designed to cull through the oysters. When you're oystering, they oyster with tongs here in Apalachicola. So they do it the old fashioned way. They have two giant rakes that are attached to each other, drop them down, and tong oysters up onto the platform on the oystering boat. They would use this to beat the stuff off of them, slide things to the side, and then this piece right here was what illegal oyster size is. Still is. This is right here. And for folks who don't know, Apalachicola Bay, this little bay here, was the most productive bay for oysters. It would produce 10% of the United States oysters and 90% of Florida's oysters. For many, many years, that is not the case anymore. Of course, that is not the case anymore. The bay is shut down. There is no wild harvesting anymore for 5 years. It is now moved to aquaculture, the farming and harvesting of grown oysters in the same water, in the upper water column in cages from seed. But that is the history of this, and that's what makes this tap handle so unique.
And the neat thing, I think, my favorite part is when, for all the bartenders out there who put these tap handles on, this, where was it? Where am I? Oh, that's 2 3/8 inch nuts. They're just spot welded. That's all it is. And when you look at it, it is like the most thing. But if you understand, when you come down to Apalachicola, you'll understand this is the way we are. You build oyster boats. It is all handmade. You can see the welding on it. It is truly who we are, and what a better thing to do than to say, if you're going to represent a beer from this area, that's the only way to do it.
And none of that stainless steel. You hook that onto the tap. Hopefully, you leave it on there for a couple months, and it welds itself to it. You can't take it off. Have to keep our beer on tap, or you got to replace your entire faucet.
We call that marketing.
That's insane. One of these days, you'll have to let me know what it'll cost to ship a few of those down and a couple of those hats that Clayton has on. That'd be something I would love.
We'll get it down to you.
One for Steve. I'm sure Steve can figure out a use for it, and I'll
I
put
got
it
a
on
gear
my
shipping
shipping
my
radar.
car. Good on.
There we go. That works.
We've had people approach us about making new tap handles, and we just stayed authentic to Apalachicola. It may not be the most utilitarian thing, but it gets the job done, and it shows who we are.
Yeah.
It's almost perfect in how unique it is, to be honest with you. Because you definitely do not see something like that anywhere. So I am amazed. Jamie, you got to tell me about this, because I have just cracked open Mangrove, and the mango aroma that comes off of this beer is out of this world. Absolutely fantastic. And it says that it's a pale ale with natural mango flavors. Clayton, I see you laughing because I know the story that Kevin told me about this beer. So I definitely want to go through that. But Jamie, first of all, in terms of the production of this, how is this done? Because this mango aroma is just unworldly. I don't even know if
the story of this beer.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll tell the story real quick, and then you can talk about how you make it now.
Okay.
And it's made the same way here, but we got to let Jamie talk a little bit. We can't take the whole thing. Well, the original Cassie, one of the original founders, she was brewing either a Dirty Blonde or a First Light one day. I don't remember which one. The story gets flip-flop depending on how many beers we've had talking about it. And forgot to throw a couple of the bags of, I think it was crystal malt in there that give it the color, which we do not have in the mango. And she cried and freaked out. And they have the restaurant across the street, the Owl, so they had some mango puree over here that they used for some recipes. Ended up dumping that in there, putting it in the fermenter, letting it ferment after she cried and cried because there was no money to, replace the grain, and you can't afford to put it down the drain at that time. And ended up finding a little mango extract to add to it afterwards, and ended up turning it into this beer that was able to sell in the tasting room. Well, then I came along, started looking through the old recipe book, started getting people saying, "Hey, where's that mango beer you guys had?" So I rejuvenated the recipe, bulked it up a little bit, and now we have the mango that we have today. And it's
scary.
It's scary. This year it has its popularity has just increased by 500% probably.
Oh yeah, it's a natural mango extract that gives it the beautiful aroma, and otherwise it's a big not hoppy pale ale, and with that mango aroma, it just finishes fantastic.
The one thing that we get when I taste it with people is it has a great balance. Yes, you do get that sweetness, that mango on the nose, but it blends itself so well on the palate. It's not, you don't get that heavy fruit flavor on it. It's just sort of there at the back end, which is really kind of cool.
That's amazing. And it kind of like you said, it's sort of perfect in terms of drinkability. But I will admit, it's not a beer I expected to see coming out of the Panhandle. It's definitely something that I would expect coming down here. So,
as Clayton likes to say, we make beer we like to drink.
Yeah, and luckily a lot of other people like to drink it too. You're never going to see any, ghost crab, habanero, strawberry.
Angela, what are you talking about? It's all over in Pensacola.
But
personally, I'm waiting for the key lime.
Yeah. Simple, everyday drinkable beers is what we try to make, and we want you to come back to it every day.
Well, and actually, it's funny, the comment that was just posted makes sense in that your beers are all over the place, especially in Publix now. You basically were told Publix actually came to you, which is not what you hear from other breweries in the state.
We got some calls.
Yeah, we got a few calls beforehand saying, "Hey, when are you guys going to can your beer? We want your beer in our stores." And this was before we even thought about it. And we realized, hey man, the biggest dog in the game asking you, hey, we'd love to have your beer. And Publix has just embraced us in our original territory of Apalachicola. I mean, there's no Publix in Apalachicola, but Panama City all the way to Pensacola, now Mobile, and Tallahassee down to Ocala. Our distributors worked really hard for us, and we've established a great relationship with them. And we talk to them regularly, communicate with them regularly, and it's become a great relationship. I mean, if you want to sell a lot of beer in the craft beer game, you got to be with those guys if you're in cans, and it's a great relationship to have. But I will say one thing, we do still have about 40% of our canned business is done by independents.
Yeah.
We got a great independent following. I'll let Kevin talk about this.
See, we started independent. I'm going to trademark this phrase. We started Stips to Lips. We were on premise from 2013 until 2019. In other words, people come up and go, where can you get it? You can get it at this bar, this bar, this bar, this bar, this restaurant. It was only in those places. So, and it was the independents that brought us there. They're the ones that brought us to the dance. And when people were going into the chain stores and going, hey, do you have this beer? And they put the pressure on us. Our independents are enormous for us. We've got fantastic relationships with Wine Worlds and Quicker Liquors and Market Squares. All these great people that have followed us from the very beginning. So, we're independent. We're not owned by AB InBev or SAB Miller or whatever the fuck the next biggest guy is going to be. We're still just a group of people.
But those guys do a fantastic job.
Oh, no, they do. They're awesome. There's no doubt. You have to have the big dogs as far as your distributorships goes, and they're great. They all have great craft beer managers, and they have cicerones on staff. I need another one. So,
all right.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
I think they froze. That's not good.
Well,
I freeze?
we always say that they deliver the internet to Apalachicola in buckets.
Yes, our internet is delivered in buckets. That is for sure.
That's funny. Well, it's great that you've got so much distribution, because I was going to say we are sort of coming out of the quarantine. And what was COVID like for you up in Apalachicola? What did you do, or were you able to get through it relatively easily?
I mean, luckily we're in a town of 3,000 people. I can't imagine what my life would be like if I was living in some of the places that I've lived before. Now, in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, or Charlotte, or Raleigh, or, big cities like Atlanta, New York, places like that, I really can't imagine what it'd be. Luckily, we have a great community here who banded together. We closed down March 19th. Closed up for a little while. We were able to reopen several weeks later and do to go. We have a great local following who supported us through this. We have people who were very loyal to us and bought our beer in Publix and Independents and everywhere outside of it. Luckily, we got into cans last September. I mean, that's huge. If we weren't in cans, it would have been a different story for us. But we had a great local following and some folks who supported us. We even had the Tallahassee Beer Society who did an epic beer run. They came down here and took orders through our online ordering system. Danny came down here and picked up $1,700 worth of beer and took it back to Tallahassee and distributed it for us. That was incredible. We just have so much great support from our independents, from our chains, from our distributors, from Kevin, from Jamie, from all of us. We just worked together to do the best. And we were able to weather the storm, and we hope that all these breweries will be able to make it through too, because I know it's been tougher on some than it has for us.
Well, our hearts go out to everybody who was affected by it, and the families that were affected by it. It's a horrible thing that happened. Hopefully we'll get through it and we'll move forward with it. But yeah, the support has been fantastic, and we're blessed to have the system that we have.
Definitely. And it's interesting because up until now we've had some pretty accessible, some sort of quiet beers, but it's finally time. Let's just go ahead and crack open the IPA because everybody.
I got another mangrove still.
Oh, you still need the mangrove. Jamie's got the IPA.
Well,
Steve, I'm assuming you have the IPA.
I'm gonna crack open that IPA with you.
And it becomes a question of how do you distinguish your IPA, because everybody has to have at least 4,500 of them, and when you definitely smell this one, and this one's got a very sort of West Coasty citric, high alpha acid forward sort of aroma to it. What did you do with Appalach to really sort of make it your own?
This one is very much it really is a West Coast IPA, but has a little bit more that more modern Citra character to it, and it's very old school. And Clayton's been brewing it there in Appalach, and we had to kind of retool it a little bit when we came to Lakeland, because a lot of the hops that we used were in short supply, and so we made a slightly.
And we have to make money. In the end, hops are expensive.
So, but we came up with a balance that I think is true to the style, and it just finishes really refreshing. But it is kind of an old school IPA.
One of the things
it's definitely
with people is as I'm going in, I get people who go, I don't like IPAs, and they go, but I actually like yours. Ours doesn't come across, like Jamie said, it's not that heavy, high hoppy thing. You're drinking an IPA, but it's not that going to kill you. People who like IPAs like us. People who don't like us. So we've got a great balance of it. It's awesome.
It's amazing. And it's interesting when you see a lot of the people that are ordering it in the tap room, the people that are coming to Apalachicola and drinking Appalach. Is it mostly people that know beer that are coming over from Pensacola or Jacksonville or somewhere that are passing through that want an IPA because they know what the IPA is? Or did you have a lot of locals that either knew it or just grew to love the style?
We've got a great local following for the IPA. We have folks that come in and drink the IPA on a daily basis. And it's one of those beers that we worked on so much. And then you get it exactly like you want it. And then like Jamie would say, oh, there's a shortage on this hop, or there's a shortage on this hop. Especially being a smaller brewery, it's hard to get your hands on some of that stuff. So it was always being tweaked. And then we finally found that perfect balance of it. We have a great local following for the IPA. It's actually our second best-selling canned beer.
Oh, nice.
And our third best-selling beer out of the tap room.
We also have people coming in from Toronto and Minnesota and Cleveland, all kind of other places that I think sometimes you gauge a place on its IPA because everyone has one, So you kind of go, let me try yours. Let me see what yours is like. They know what they like, and they go, wow, this is really, really great.
And when you got somebody from, Ohio or Colorado or California or somewhere coming through telling you that your IPA, that's the highest praise you can get. So many great breweries, so many great IPAs across the country that we're happy to be happy with ours, for sure.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, that has been an excellent kind of rundown for everything. I do appreciate your time. I do appreciate the beers. I do appreciate everything. And we got one more story. Yeah, go for it.
Raspberry. I gave you a crowler of it.
Yeah.
How was it?
Have not tried it just yet.
Oh,
don't worry. I gotta wait for Steve to come over. We've got a raspberry hibiscus crowler waiting for us.
Nice. I do love
hibiscus. Don't worry, I will get that open as soon as I possibly can. That's the nice thing about Brew Hub. We don't have to go to Apalachicola. Of course, we should probably do that sooner rather than later.
We do that at some point.
Yeah, we do.
And
Yeah,
you
we
may
do.
be able to get, we did do one little small batch of raspberry hibiscus over there this year. Jamie did one. Yeah. You may be able to get that on tap. I'm not sure if they put it on there. Yeah, I know they do have on tap our Lionfish Lager, which is one of our, we just released 3 lagers for Oktoberfest. We usually do a big Oktoberfest here in Apalachicola. We canceled it this year. But we did a Schwartz beer, we did a Fest beer, and we did a Mars. So
Nice.
he did the Marzen down there as well.
Oh, that sounds so good.
Yep.
All right. So let's get this going. You should probably say hi to everybody one last time for the people that are watching us from across the street. See if we can get them to wave to us.
All right, hold on. Hey, you're on live. Wait. Trust me. I'm a salesman. Yeah.
Oh, gotta love it.
Oh,
All right. So Clayton and Kevin from Oyster City in Apalachicola, Jamie from Oyster City in Lakeland, thank you so much for coming on the show. Next
Thank
week,
you.
we are not going to be talking about beer at all. We actually are going to be talking about kombucha and Mother Kombucha from St. Petersburg, Florida. They actually sent us some of their kombucha spiked regular seltzer, not hard seltzer, but regular seltzer. So we're going to chat about them and making a mother and all sorts of interesting things about the drink that I tried to make and failed miserably at. So that's perfectly great. Make sure to find us on floridabeerblog.com, floridabeermedia.com. We're on social media at Florida Beer Blog on Instagram and Twitter. Be like the team over at Hall Patter and make sure to write nice things about other brewers in the state. I'd love to read them and take a look at those. Thanks for showing up. If you're on YouTube, thanks for listening, and we will see you all next week. Have a great day and drink Florida Craft.
This job don't suck.